This is Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I'm Seun Okinbaloye in Abuja. There's been a frenzy and is heated now about the 2023 general election, especially the presidential election. You can liken the frenzy to a very intense football match, a derby, a local derby that perhaps will determine who wins the league. And it's about a few minutes before that game, and you're seeing supporters across the line cheering their own. That is perhaps the kind of feeling that we're getting ahead of the 2023 general election. Well, it's exactly 3 weeks to the start of the campaigns for the presidential election, and the pre-campaign activities that we're seeing, and it's giving some sense of how the race will shape up in terms of the issues, some of the gladiators, and how they're going about their activities. Some of the issues that will shape this race will be the issue of the economy, the issue of security, and the issue of religion is coming up. Ethnicity is one of those issues that politicians are talking about, and the role of the extant law that will guide the conduct of the elections. For example, today, the senator representing Kogi West in the National Assembly, Senator Seun, today addressed a press conference where he's speaking about the need to amend the Electoral Act. Let me allow you to listen to him. He also spoke about the chances of his party, the APC.
I propose, which I have told the leadership, that we amend Section 84 of the Electoral Act 2022 by inserting a new subclause 13 that no political party shall nominate candidate of the same religion as presidential candidate or vice presidential candidate after this dispensation. Yes, after this dispensation. Because when an oversight is committed the first time, you don't allow it to occur the second time, so that it doesn't become a policy. That's our proposal. I am a Christian, and I know what I'm telling you, that the option available for Nigeria is that we amend electoral act for future elections, so that we do not run into this issue of religion crisis again. When you want to assess an individual, you look at his past record, his hustle, his family life. Then you ask questions for his friends and associates. You look at those he mentored, but more importantly, you look at the antecedent of such a character. In this case, factors to be considered are: is the individual in question qualified and worthy of the position he seeks to occupy? Does he have the capacity to revamp and reshape our nation? And my simple answer to that is yes.
That's Senator Smart Adeyemi speaking about the need to amend the Electoral Act and the chances of the presidential candidate of the APC. Well, the past week has seen the presidential candidate of the Labour Party too, Mr. Peter Obi, on the road, but this time around abroad. He is being on a tour of the United States where he's been speaking for diaspora support and addressing different segments of the audience. The Labour Party has also inaugurated an 11-man committee to steer its diaspora activities and ensure inclusiveness of the members of the party outside the country, and also to get some financial support. However, there have been questions as to the foreign support the Labour Party and its candidates is getting, and perhaps what the law says. Well, let's get some perspectives on the Labour Party and the activities of the presidential candidate Peter Obi in the diaspora across the continent, across the world, seeking support and what the law says. I'm being joined by one of those persons that has been on that trip with him, Professor Pat Utomi. He joins us live from New York on the sideline of one of the events that the Labour Party presidential candidate is presently speaking in New York. Professor Pat Utomi joins us from New York. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us. There's been growing criticism of your party, Labour Party, on its grassroots support. and perhaps why you are looking to the diaspora support as to seeking the support locally where you could get the vote. What inspired the diaspora, the seeking of diaspora support and the foreign trip that you and your candidates are embarking on?
Well, Seun, it's a great pleasure to be with you again, but I think that you are missing the point so completely. I can't believe that you are hitting the ball in the wrong direction. I told you that we are building a movement. It is a movement that is designed to rescue a country. Not just a country, but a race. And if you are going to embark on a project to save a race, you've got to engage the stakeholders broadly. Look, the black man has faced 500 years of servitude. We saw a remarkable thing begin in the United States with freedom fighters like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr. And we eventually saw the fruits many years later in Barack Obama as President of the United States of America. We watched the planet evolve. In the last 100 or so years, if you look at the countries that have taken off and gone through rapid transformation, their transformation has been driven significantly by their diaspora, starting with the Meiji Restoration in Japan and how Japanese ascendancy came from the Japanese diaspora, mainly from Germany, influencing Japan's engagement with technology and a new way. We've watched India rising, we've seen China rising, and we've seen spectacular roles that have been played by their diasporas in making it happen. I can tell you for a clear fact that I was in India in 1991 and 1994. In 1991, India was down to less than 3 weeks trading money in its foreign reserves. India was technically bankrupt like Nigeria is right now. Let's not kid ourselves, Nigeria is bankrupt right now. And there was a sense of, my goodness, what's going to happen to almighty India? A series of things that people didn't quite anticipate. Rajiv Gandhi had been killed in that assassination. Congress Indira Party didn't know what to do. They needed a gap closing person until the next Gandhi more or less would be ready. And Narasimha Rao became Prime Minister of India. Rao appointed Manmohan Singh Finance Minister, and a series of reforms began. In those reforms, the surge of new capital coming into India as we need to rebuild Nigeria came, one, from the United States, and two, from a source called NRI. I remember as a teacher at the Lagos Business School, I used to make a joke that the second biggest source of foreign investment at that time was growing at the rate of almost $1 billion a week after reaching near bankruptcy. The second biggest source, because of new policies that were put in place by Manmohan Singh, was coming from NRI. And I used to joke that it was from Nri, a village in the southeast of Nigeria, and then I will make everybody laugh for a bit, and they will ponder the puzzle, and I say, no, it's actually non-resident Indians. So as we begin to get ready to rescue Nigeria, it would be totally unthoughtful if we didn't engage the Nigerian diaspora, because that relief for Nigeria will come from them. It is a clear way of implementing strategy. And so this coming and having these listening clinics with the diaspora and getting them to be hooked is like saying, you can do, look at globalization as a major factor in India rising. We have seen American economists, Nobel Prize winning economists, Joseph Stiglitz, first wrote the book, Globalization and Its Discontents, pointing to some basic challenges of globalization. And then more recently, someone like Paul Krugman, another Nobel Prize winner who supported globalization, beginning to say, wait a minute, maybe we should begin to rethink this, some things in globalization. But what have we seen? The Indian economists like Jagdish Bhagwati have written books in praise of globalization. Why? Their role as academics essentially drove India's profit from globalization. So, yeah.
If summarize, and I premise the first question on the essence of the diaspora support we're seeking, because essentially, what will make your candidate be the next president is the actual votes. Whatever support you're getting will amount to nothing if the votes don't come. That's why I premise my first question on that. So essentially, what we are trying to do abroad is to gather a support for the agenda of the Peter Obi and Labour Party. That's the reasoning.
That is it, because if you run around, get elected, and you don't have a path to implementation, you've just wasted time getting elected. That's one. The second bit is that you underestimate what the diaspora can do. Look, a country that has collapsed like Nigeria, where its biggest source of foreign revenue, oil, is giving it far less than diaspora remittances. Nigeria is actually on a life support system held up by the diaspora. So, if we get that diaspora to say to all these people who are sending money for burial, for just basic survival, eating, for everything, look, you got to free us from this pressure by making the country work. Not like we have today in Nigeria. They can then influence those that they support. Yeah. Absolutely. Hey, Seun, you won't believe it. We've been packing the place full. As I speak to you, Mr. Obi is downstairs talking to more than 1,500 Nigerian students from Yale, Columbia, and all of those places. And we are building the new Nigerians that will go and connect up to their cousins at home and say, we got to stop this, energize them to do what Barack Obama did in the United States, to empower young people to look. Nigeria is a young country. 70% of those who will vote are technically called youth. All these fellows who you're talking about that have built this, what I like to call structures of criminality that are used for election rigging, will find that these young people will put in place what is bigger than any structure, what will reach more voters, and what will shock them out of public office. And I hope they stay away from it for a very long time, because they've ruined the generation and ruined the country. So, I want to assure you that this is a purposeful thing. Campaigns have not started, so we're not really campaigning. We are essentially preparing people to change the structure of Nigeria's democracy, so that if we change it, we can have a new country.
So let's clarify this before I get into other issues quickly. It's a controversy that I saw, and I feel that it's needed because we're part of that, so you can give us some clarification. Has there been any kind of charges, fees, paid by any attendees of his meetings with Mr. Peter Obi? Have they been charged any fees to attend such meetings?
We have been invited to events. We don't know what the mechanics are, you know. So in America, it's a tradition. If some people give a breakfast or dinner, they may charge people to come to it. But we've not been associated with anything. We just get invited by Nigeria groups and we attend. So I don't think that is an issue we've engaged with in any shape, form, or any ways.
So another thing that we probably want to lift up before we discuss some element of issue is that still, and I'm very sure that you left that across the battle, that there is some kind of issue between yourself and the Secretary about campaign funding and then structure with the party structure. Just in a few seconds, if you touch on that so I can bring to the next question.
Yeah, it shows you how dangerous a territory we're playing. This thing called fake news has reached a point now. For example, I heard that this thing happened in Agbo, a town that I have not visited in years. You know me very well. You know that one of the last conversations I can have with anybody and dispute around is money. Whenever there is a money issue and people are disputing, I walk away, even if I have billions to lose. I found a company that would become multi-billion naira company Once I saw unethical behavior, I just walked away. Each time I see those things, I walk away. So to now come and do that over campaign, you know me well enough to know that that's absolute nonsense. No such thing ever happened. We've never even had a conversation around money in any shape, form, at all.
So let's talk about money now, because money is a very big deal when it comes to campaign financing.
Yes.
And because we heard that women parties were entitled that they don't pay shishi. Shishi Nigeria means a guy. They're not going to pay everything that Peter Obi is about who don't pay shishi in that sense. So, are you also seeking funds, sourcing finance to for the campaigns of Peter Obi and the Labour Party from the diaspora community?
When the time is right, the diaspora will give money. They have always given money to campaigns. I have run for president, as you know, before. I got support from the diaspora in 2006 or 7, and then when I ran into 2011. When the time is right, we're going to solicit, obviously, from Nigerians across the board. We're setting up portals where people can give money. You can hear the excitement. Look at the shouting of these young people from downstairs. I'm actually like 2 floors up from where they are. We can hear the excitement. It is those young people down there that are screaming, who will give from their allowances, what they earn working here, $10 every week for the season of the election. But these portals are not up yet. They will be up next week or so. And eventually we're going to be able to access the resources from the diaspora for sure. But right now what we are about is a sensitization tool about what makes democracy work. Right now Nigeria's democracy is not working because of the transaction costs that are involved, the trade-offs that have to be made, such that eventually when people get to power, they find that what trumps is power and not purpose. They forget the purpose because there are so many deals, IOUs, payoffs to win the election, that in the end, we get the politics of politicians, for politicians, by politicians, and not a democracy that is for the people and by the people. That's why Nigeria is where it is today, crippled, lying prostrate before the world, in spite of its enormous potential, because Nigerian politicians are so connected to the deals that they can make for themselves rather than the service of the people in the process. That's what we're trying to change.
Let me jump in quickly on the issue you mentioned on the aims of sourcing funds from abroad. And I'd like to probably bring section 225 of the Constitution and section 85, section A, B, C, D of the Nigerian Electoral Act 2022 to remedies about the source of funding for campaign and how the law looks at it. Are you worried?
I am fully, Seun,
the law says I'm getting funds for party activities and campaign funding outside of Nigeria.
Seun, I'm completely aware of what the law says. If we open a portal and say Nigerians who want to support what we stand for should contribute to it, if you say Nigerians abroad can't go to a portal and contribute $1 and those at home, then you take into a point beyond. First of all, you've prevented them from voting. Every other small African country manages to allow diaspora to vote. Ghana, Kenya, everybody. In Nigeria, they can't vote because Nigerian politicians are afraid that because they are more clear-thinking people, if they vote, they will not likely win elections. We have already done that. That has created a class warfare between Nigerians who are excluded from their democracy and those allowed, because currently bad performing politicians are afraid that right-thinking Nigerians abroad will vote. Now you say they can't even give 100 naira to a candidate. Are you clear what you are saying? Do you believe yourself?
It is not what I believe, it is what the law says.
I'm just telling you the reality of what you are saying. I'm just telling you the truth of what you're saying.
Yeah, but you might have a problem with what the law says. The law is what the law says.
Well, I just heard on your show that that Smart ADM is proposing changing the Electoral Act. Maybe that's one of the things they should be changing.
So, basically, because you've told us that you have plans to source funds from diaspora.
To open a portal that will get funds from anybody who can give.
So what the law says, Prof,
Yes.
Such funds are going to be forfeited. If such funds are found that they are coming from outside of Nigeria, they are going to be forfeited.
Seun, I'm shocked. Seun, I am shocked that you, who watched the candidates in the PDP and APC share US dollars in Nigeria and they are not in jail, that you could be saying such. Can there be anything more of a travesty than that?
This is not my view, Prof.
Hey, Seun, I'm just trying to.
The Federal Republic of Nigeria, not a document that I read, Prof. I'm just asking a question.
Okay, Seun, I accept that you are the victim of the law. You are a victim, so I won't push it to you. You are the victim of it, not the effect of the law. What we're saying is that we're going to have a portal, and every Nigerian can go in and make their contribution. What can be more democratic than that? If there's a law that opposes that, that law is fundamentally flawed, does not deserve the name of law. Look, let's talk about law. You know, there's a lovely little book written in 1850 by a Frenchman that was titled exactly The Law. And in that book, he describes the law as something that those who have power use to essentially bully their opponents. I think that Frederick Bastiat sets a stage for us to discuss what law is and what laws are making in Nigeria. Laws that are designed to prevent the Nigerian people from taking their country back do not have the force of legitimacy, and therefore must be opposed, must be changed, must be rejected, so that what we are doing, as I've said, is a movement. I told you on that seat you are sitting on, Seun, that we're building a movement that will change Nigeria. Some people are rigging things together in parties to win elections. We're not looking at rigging things together for one election. We're looking at changing the lives of people permanently going forward through a movement that is essentially a revolution of liberation for the black man. Because this is what has happened to us. We have been allowed to become the laughing stock of the world because we have poor leadership that has come through bad elections, through abuse of democracy, and through state capture. That is the current order. That is why we are the poverty capital of the world.
Yeah, I literally dragged you out of that meeting downstairs, where you're supposed to be attending, where Mr. Peter Obi is speaking right now in New York, where they allow you so that you can get back into that meeting and probably get some more support that can get some from it. Hopefully, we don't get you and your party into trouble about the
I assure you we will not get into trouble because we love Nigeria, we love Nigerians, and Nigeria will rise up again in spite of what they are trying to do.